The Pantheon MMO November newsletter had quite the reveal, expanding on hints from the October newsletter about a rework of combat. I'd like to read their words verbatim before going further. We've previously communicated that our vision for combat in Pantheon is one that steers away from the rotation-based approach that is so pervasive in tab-targeting MMORPGs and instead encourages tactical decision-making, teamwork, and conscientious resource management. We believe that it's important for abilities in Pantheon to feel impactful, and part of how we intend to achieve that is by emphasizing the costs, benefits, and risks associated with when and why an ability is used. Whether it's spending mana for a heal, risking time to launch a powerful offensive spell, or holding back for a team maneuver, our goal is to create inflection points throughout the course of an encounter and in the moments in between, where the emphasis is on the players using powerful skills at opportune moments rather than trying to maintain uptime for the sake of uptime. This is an intriguing development for me to see, and if we were to compare it to anything, I'd say it reminds me of old school EverQuest, especially for mana using classes. I distinctly remember my one ill-fated attempt at playing a cleric where when leveling, I had to make strategic decisions about what spell I should use in a given situation. I pretty much always made the wrong decision. Was a complete heal, a longer cast, but far more mana efficient, the way to go? Or were things hitting too hard and too fast, so I needed to spend more mana to heal? To a much lesser degree, I remember this with the DPS classes and considering when and where to use a discipline with a 50-minute cooldown, or spells that ate most of my mana bar. These decisions were weighted often in seconds, but they had an impact, and making wrong choices could be devastating. Quick note here, sorry to any group that I ever tried to heal for. There's a reason why I have gone full-on DPS. I found that I was an expert at killing things, whether I intended to or not. I think the knee-jerk reaction here is to think of this as a combat overhaul or revamp. In fact, MMORPG.com had an article titled Pantheon Rise of the Fallen completely overhaul combat for more strategy, less reliance on rotations. There's some truth in that title, but it's also a little bit alarmist, especially for anyone who has doubts about crowdfunded games in general and their ability to complete in a timely manner. So I did a quick word search, you can do it yourself, Control F, for overhaul. And I think I found where MMORPG got its title, but I don't think that's how it's meant to be conveyed. In the newsletter, under attribute and stat adjustments, it says the following: the importance of individual stats in Pantheon, be they core attributes, skills, or other modifiers, is paramount to creating the iconic and desirable itemization model we have in mind. Individual point gain should feel like a noticeable improvement, and the tighter we constrain those numbers while enhancing their effects, the more we can ensure that loot maintains value and longevity. We have overhauled these aspects of the game to create better clarity in what individual attributes contribute to, and to promote desirability in attributes that may not otherwise be considered core to a given class. By taking a ground-up approach to these improvements, we have also made substantial enhancements to the underlying formulas and substats that enable us to create items and even more nuanced benefits, as well as significant gains to the effects of buffs and debuffs that influence these stats. So there's a few ways to look at this. I believe I'm looking at as more of an adjustment or tweaking, whereas MMORPG.com, at least by the title of their article, not necessarily the substance of the article, is considering this a complete rework that ignores one of the very first points of the newsletter, where they state they had previously communicated that their vision for combat in Pantheon is one that steers away from rotation-based combat prevalent in tab-targeting MMOs and instead focused on tactical decision-making, teamwork, and conscientious resource management. So if it's previously been conveyed that this is the standard by which Pantheon wants their combat to be, I don't see this as a complete rework. So perhaps we should take a step back and not alarm others that this is yet another complete overhaul in the game system that will further delay. From what I've personally seen in the videos of Pantheon over the years, this skeleton has always been there. This to me sounds just like they weren't happy with it yet and wanted to make changes that were more than a mere adjustment or tweak. So to me, this means that devs may have thought Pantheon was looking a little too much like current day tab target MMORPGs and not like their original vision. So they've pulled back from where they were to rework it. Like the lines they'd been trying to color between had gotten so covered up by drawing outside of them, they decided to Control Z a few times. This, of course, is just my opinion, and I am certain to have fewer sources than MMORPG.com. But moving away from my consternation at MMORPG.com's article title, there's one part of the newsletter I really wanted to hone in on, because I feel like it is so important to Pantheon, and I was so excited to see it in clear writing. Class identity. The newsletter states clearly that having distinct classes with their own strengths and weaknesses is a core tenet of Pantheon's development. The newsletter explains that combat improvements will allow the team to explore those distinct roles more than they were able to previously. Reworking attributes and their effectiveness allows the team to highlight where classes excel more than others. The example they gave was the sheer undisputed potency of a wizard's nuke that may be a bit of a trade-off when it comes to debuffing when compared to an enchanter. This is music to this older gamer's ears because it's something I've missed with do-it-all classes in so many MMORPGs. I appreciate the convenience of being a Swiss Army knife, but sometimes it's nice to eat with a knife and fork and a spoon. You know? Would a bard be a spork? A bard would definitely be a spork. I think a lot of this is already just reinforcing what a lot of us have come to expect and hope for from Pantheon. But there was a tidbit that stood out as being a bit different and a little bit intriguing. Nearly all of our class resources, ability costs, cooldowns, and potencies are being adjusted to better meet the vision, and we are introducing new functionality and features intended to reward mindful ability use and team coordination. Team coordination, you say? Only time will tell, but given the context and the specific words, new functionality and features, I have to wonder if this is touching on the same kind of original vision EverQuest 2 had of dynamic moments within a group or raid where abilities triggered off others. Now, ultimately, EverQuest 2 mostly abandoned that after being unable to balance it properly. I know a few other MMORPGs have tried some similar tactics, such as Final Fantasy XIV limit breaks, but I'd be very curious to see if Pantheon was considering any kind of triggered combo system, or if they're simply referring to class symbiosis here, like Enchanter debuff makes Wizard Pew Pew go boom boom. I'm not sure how I'd feel either way, and I won't comment further without more substantive detail, but I'm curious, very curious. Time will tell. I will be one of the first to say that I may be reading way too much into the wording here. Just like MMORPG.com may have read too much into the wording of overhaul. We'll only be able to tell as time moves on. My name is Redbeard Flynn. Thank you so much for watching yet another video where I say the word Pantheon 3 times, click my heels, and hope for alpha. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you can stay Pantheon patient, because it's hard, y'all. What happened with New World?